That's the
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Virtual Ops 2020 season session. It's a big pleasure for me to have you with us. Today we have another guest speaker presentation from Jasenka Rapayech. And before we're going in her presentation, I'm suggesting that we are all introducing ourselves, that we know who is in the session, because we have, again, a huge experiences from many years in airline operations and technology. So I suggest that we start with Martin Sedlacek, who was the guest speaker in our first session that you are starting the introduction.
Yeah, sure. So good morning, everyone. Happy to be with you again. I'm from Lufthansa Consulting, responsible for the Solution Group Flight Operations and Safety, and my background is basically Operations Control Center. I was working for years with Czech Airlines, then with EasyJet. And now in Lufthansa Consulting, I'm focusing on the projects related to both operations control, but also to the AOC management for the airlines who operate multiple operating platforms. And I'm really happy to be part of this session because the book of Mrs. Rapayech was actually something what started my interest in somehow dealing with the disruptions in structured and systematic way. So I'm really looking forward to this session.
Thank you. Let's go to the other Martin, to Scandinavia now. Martin, you are muted. Now you're muted again, yeah. Now you're unmuted. We cannot hear you. It was better before. Let's go to Colombia while you are fixing your technology issues. Daniel, Colombia, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Daniel Melendez from Colombia. I'm working with Iber Choice, which is my company, and we are working in we have a collaboration platform to understand how can we help the aviation in this challenge.
Thank you. Let's go to India, to Abhilash, please.
Hi guys, I'm Abhilash. I'm from Frost & Sullivan. We are a market research and consulting company. I'm with the commercial aviation team, and my focus is mainly on the airline and the airport side of things. My background is I had a few years experience with an IT service provider in India, and I was working with their aerospace team, and now I'm in the commercial aviation side. So looking forward to a great session. Thank you guys.
Let's try it again with Scandinavia. Martin, are you ready?
Now you should be able to hear me.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, my name is Martin Hoffman. Good morning, everyone. I should start with my present work today. I work with Scandinavian Airlines. I'm responsible for crew systems and analytics in SES, but previously I've been working with SES for almost 23 years, I think, with mainly in operations, but in all different, most different areas in operations, and mainly in flight operations with everything from operations control to crew planning to other areas as well. So, but at the moment we are focusing on looking at how we can improve the company to be able to prepare for the future and what that future will look like. So yes, that's short for me.
Thank you. Let's go to India. Arun, please.
Hey, I'm Arun. I work with IBS as head of product for iFlight Operations Solution Suite. I have 15 years of experience in this industry, working with airlines from Middle East, Europe, Americas. I'm really glad to be in this session today. My interest, I kind of reflect what Martin was saying because I have bought and read Jasenka's book, and it was eye-opener. So I'm really looking forward to hear her presentation today. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity, Jasenka, from my flight.
Let's go to Singapore. Yvonne.
Hi everyone, my name is Yvonne from the IBS Region Sales. Covering all our products and solutions across our lines of business. I've now been with IBS coming to 3 years. Previously worked with Singapore Airlines, IATA, as well as ASM, an airport consulting company. Very nice to meet all of you today, and look forward to our discussion. Thanks.
Let's go to hopefully not foggy London today.
Sunny London today, at least today morning. Hello, everybody. This is Sapna. I'm consultant to the airline operations suite of products of IBS. Have experience working in product development as well as currently in consulting across different airlines in the world, from US to Middle East to Europe to a lot of regions. So I have been lucky to have a lot of experience working with airlines. Great to have you here. Thank you for this opportunity. And Jacinka, it's great to listen to you. I'm looking forward to listening to a thought leader in the industry. Thank you.
So before we start now with the session, just some logistics. Almost all of you know the format and concept from Virtual Happy Hour and Virtual Ops 2020. So we want to foster the dialogue. So Jasenka, be prepared to get asked many times while you're presenting. So it's not this webinar style of one direction communication where at the end of the session people can raise their questions in written format. Here everybody can speak up. Maybe to organize it a bit, we can use the raise your hand functionality. So if you want to ask something to Jasenka that I'm then calling in, and but Jasenka has also prepared some questions from her side. So then, Jasenka, the stage is yours. If you're now starting the screen sharing, we can see hopefully your slides. Stage is yours, Jasenka.
Okay.
Very good. We can see everything. Yeah.
See? Nowhere. Okay. So first, today we are going to talk about two grayish areas of airline management, about collaborations and disruptions. Because observed from the system level. So to collaborate means creating connection between departments that are non-existing at the moment, something that can help make a better decision for the entire system. And then we have disruptions, which I would like you to see as signals for change, not in a negative context, because they are the results or all possible activities that happen that precede the day of operations, and from there, we, by going backwards, close near real time, you can understand that these interconnections, which are the biggest problem for management airlines at the top level, and create biggest problems to leaders to understand what is happening in their organization. So that's what we are going to talk about. I would like to say that everything you are going to see here comes from my experience, and of course from learning from system thinkers, from fresh thinkers that I managed to meet and talk to and even interview some of them. But that my background covers almost every aspect of planning processes, from strategy through network planning, through scheduling and operations. And that happened in diverse airlines, from major to medium-sized to startups. So what I actually noticed that what was in common throughout my experience was some sort of the gap between information between the executive information available to executives at the top levels and operational information. And that's about those interactions that we are going to talk and focus on today. So it's actually the biggest problem is complexity, and that's where we are not good at. And that's where this interaction create a problem. So the history of complexity, actually, airlines are complex businesses, and they've always been a complex businesses. But when complexity crossed the point of being manageable properly, then it becomes the problem. So throughout the history, when airlines were smaller, it was leaders were actually had a pretty good picture about what is happening in the airline. It was not so difficult to manage the system based on information that was available to them, and that sort of information, in particular about cost and punctuality reflecting quality. Was actually created by ICAO in 1950s. And IATA also about punctuality. There are things that we are using today to report on cost and punctuality. But when at the time when the regulations come in force, which was 1980s, everything becomes more and more complex. The growth was really fast, and the hub and spoke network model created actually the biggest problem. Because hub and spoke required connectivity, and it was required completely different concept in planning and strategic and planning decision and operations, especially created problem in operational environment. So, but what happened with information handling this complexity with a different approach to management and different information that would help leaders understand what is happening within the airline, in operations, in real life, was not available. So they continue to use this linear system to manage something that is not non-linear. And of course, quality dropped, as we know that, congestion increased, and we ended up in a very disruptive system, very hard to control. And that's where we ended with COVID. And now we have opportunity to do something about it because we are free to make changes now, changes that we are not able to make earlier. So we have a mindset problems when we are inside our organization, we are not actually able to see things in any different way than what is we are learned to see and what we are experiencing. And we were designed to follow the top-down flow of information. Organization is structured, as you can see, that to be easily controlled for the top manager, the functions, which is necessary for general management purposes, but it's not good for managing complex system. And that is the problem, because what we are facing is just as you can see, our interactions between people and data and processes. There are external influences, something that looks very, very chaotic and almost impossible to grasp if you just look at this drawing. So, and what we will try to do, what we need to do, is to find a way to focus on things that matter, that really matter, that matter most, that are important to change, that can be changed, to access that information, the pain points that leaders would also be aware about, not just people in operation, and then see what is not important and what is not actionable. There are lots of things that you just can't change, as we know that. So the main thing is to change our mindset, to start seeing our organization as a flexible network that is in constant change. And we can't any longer look at the past to predict the future, especially at this time. And we need to find a way how to make our airlines operate in a more controllable way, more, I can't say, don't want to use the word predictable, but because it's associated with a longer time prediction, but constantly look at what is happening and look at how much our strategy are aligned with what is happening in operations. We recently saw Delta case, which I would like to mention now, because they ended up with really, really big losses, 5.5 billion for the second quarter. Understandably, there should be losses, but not as probably as big as that, because Delta Airlines had to cancel half of their planned operation, starting with from July to August. That's a big change. It's a major change. Just illustrate how important it is to somehow be aware about what is happening and do it more slowly without being too brave to expand and to doing it too fast. So Delta has downsized it, and I hope and other airlines will that they will now be more careful about and how they make their strategic decisions. But they need, of course, methods and to do that, which are not very complex. Another problem that airlines are facing is mixing up the context of decision making. So what we are very good at is optimizing our work within the department, because there are lots of experts and who can do that, and that's not a problem. They have quite a good information about what they need about reaching their objectives and their targets, things like that. But we are not that good at saying the interconnection, cross-functional interconnection, which actually changes everything that's originally planned. But waiting for profit and loss statements at the end of the quarter or half a year or a year is we are just depriving ourselves, if we see losses, to do anything about making improvements. And looking at the past again, using this approach is just not workable any longer. So what happens actually, the leaders actually, they instead of, they're faced with complex decisions where causes and consequences are not so obvious. And they need a different approach to manage this. As I said, non-linear problems cannot be managed with a linear mindset, which is ever present during the decision processes. What they are using are complicated decisions. And just to illustrate what is complicated decision compared to complex, for example, if the pilot noticed that the engine is not working properly, that aircraft has to be taken to the engineering department, and there are experts. It's a very complicated process, but experts can know how to do it. So in complex system, this connection between problem and the solution is not so obvious and needs to be done in a different way. And then we have domain operations, which is chaotic process, because you can't predict what's going to happen. Even if you can predict something, the things that are happening on the day operation can just interfere and make it impossible to know that. So at that stage, it's very important, which is something I would like to hear from you maybe later. What is important to stop bleeding in the best possible way, to have lots of information. It's not just about the data, it's about the thinking, about how to make the best possible solution. And I'm not quite sure if airlines are equipped with this kind of operation. I listened to Martin's presentation, and he mentions that, and I would like to hear maybe some more about this. It lacks of the scope, authenticity, accuracy. When I say authenticity, I think about cost. I'm talking about cost. Actual accuracy is essential as well, but it's very hard to sometimes to get it. When I say that, I think about the reasons for delays that are sometimes biased and not reflect what was really happening, what happened before that, and the root causes are, of course, not possible to identify in this system. So the biggest problem is here is this complex context at the top, and some a bit less in operations. But there are problems there that are solvable. I hope so, at least improved a bit. But this domain of leaders remains the main problem.
I have a question there to the two Martins here in the call, because Martin, you were speaking about the new mindset, and I think Martin was also in the session. I think then you went on vacation, now you come back. So are you both somehow feeling that there is already a new mindset coming to the industry? And is the decision making now considering a new mindset, or is it still a long way to go in order to achieve this new mindset?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Then the microphone works again. All right. First, I think a little bit of both. I would say that you can. Of course, there's a new mindset, there's a new reality right now, and it's a total different type of operations we are now working with. It's the decision. The lead times are much shorter because you need to adapt so fast into things that changes all the time, but on the other hand, you also struggle with this old thinking and try to adapt to the new situation. So I would say it's a little bit of both, because it's not fully the organization is not prepared or fully updated to reflect the new reality. So I would say that the change is ongoing, but it hasn't been it's far from being fully implemented.
Sapna, what's your thought on this?
Sorry, I'm unable to unmute myself.
We can hear you. Now you're muted again.
Yeah. So I have a question to Jasenka. This very interesting slide showing the complexity of operations and different aspects there. So do you think a higher post-flight reflection will happen during this COVID period? Or if yes, why do you think so? Will airlines start rethinking? Will they do more analysis? Will they try to break down departmental segmentations to improve, common data availability? And will that improve things, Jasenka? What do you think?
Yes, that post-flight reflection is the most important things, not only for operations people, but even more for decision making at the top level. And creation of strategy. That's the connection with the real world. And how it works, I'm going to talk later about the practical solution, how it can be done, but it's about connecting people around the real life problem, which is complex, the complex disruption that creates ripples across the network, things like that. We isolate them and look at them more deeply, because identifying the root causes of problems that can stretch to strategy, to adding more flights to congested airports without knowing what's happening in operation is so important. And just talking about it never ever happened, improved anything, because everybody is thinking their own thoughts. They have their mindsets are focused on their own problems, and they actually defend themselves when you have that conversations. It's a clash of interest, and we have to break that. And we can break it only if we look at we focus. We can't look at everything. That's not important. The looking at something that's tangible, that's evident, which is this disruption created a huge losses or cost. This is how much it cost us, £1 million just for one reported cause of disruption, but it proliferated. The ripples went wide, and it affected other the system, parts of the system. They affected service provided. They affected the department. Every department has to think about it, but operations exposed mostly without even knowing how much the increase in productivity, for example, by adding more hours to the aircraft affected. So we'll talk about practical solution later. So that's the point of the whole presentation, to see how we can connect without being biased and start communicating more openly about the problems which we have to solve. Okay, so shall we?
Please move on.
Okay, so there are two biggest problems that executives face with the data available to them and information also. So what executives see is what you can see. Maybe it's not important. I couldn't enlarge it. It will take the whole slide. But this is the breakdown of costs, which is functional. And we have, so their expenses, actually, I have to make the distinction, which is the mix-up of meaning of costs. Expenses are measurable, and we will have expenses, and they are factual information. But what we used to call operating costs are much more than just expenses. They include the relationships between, as I said, people and processes. Every line of this cost is actually interconnected, and if you want to sort out a complex problem and see what are the reasons for change in this operating cost, say it's they increased the cost, increased 3%. Why did the cost increase 3%? We need to reduce costs. So what can you do when you look at these reports? We can only reduce cost, departmental costs. So you go there and press department to cut costs, or you go for layoffs. You reduce costs by getting rid of people without knowing how it is going to affect the operations. So that is one of self-induced complexity that are created at top levels, at executive levels. And I'll mention Southwest, which is the most successful airline in history. It doesn't matter if it is low cost and have simple fleet structure, things like that many airlines copied. But it is something cultural inside of that, the way they actually communicate and with people. And this is the main thing that they are contribute that their success. And their ex-CEO, Herb Kelleher, used to say, when someone comes to me with a cost-saving idea, I don't immediately jump and say yes. I ask what's the effect on the customer, because we all have to create a system that will make customers satisfied, and we are not doing that. We didn't do that because it hasn't been recognized. Even the information about the passenger experience when they face disruption is not available to the top executives, and that creates the problem. So what Southwest, Herr Kelleher said actually here, that the costs are, you have to think about cost and everything that is then planned and planned for the future. You have to ask yourself about how is it going to reflect the passenger, and you can't say that if you don't establish a system that translates the problems in operation into the language understood at the top of organization. And then this is the nature, true nature of costs, why I said they are different from expenses. And this is what creates the main problem. Every cost is a mix-up of strategic and planning influences and operational influences. So, and it is change. Operational influences is changes very often, and even strategic can be changed without understanding how it is going to reflect on it. Again, this image, I can, if you are interested later by asking question, I can tell you if you can see exactly what is involved. I put a fuel cost in a fuel cost that you think is just the fuel consumption and the cost of the fuel. That's not it. There are so many other things that influence fuel consumption. And then we have here maintenance costs, which are a combination of so many different influences, which could be just to say crew problem that that causes unscheduled maintenance and things like that, and then it spreads by across the system. So we should look at costs in that way. So what do we know about quality of our performance, about the punctuality? So there is a big mess in the way the punctuality is reported. That's just, there are many reports. In Europe, there are not customers or passengers are deprived of information, of official information about the delays and airline delays and airport delays and airports. And their reports were suspended one after another, starting with 2007, as far as I can remember. It was AEA report, Association of European Airlines, suspended. Then we had not recently, about a year ago, flight on time that interpreted, that was, on the, actually what CAA had. So you had a pretty good breakdown of delay information and how it was affected passengers. So you could, and then you have now all the organization outside of airline. Airlines who are providing this information, they are not comparable. They do it in different ways generally, and that's the big problem with that. And CAA is at least very honest, partly saying that they don't take responsibility with for anything they publish in punctuality report because of the way they are produced. And this is just one of the examples. The question is where we can question accuracy. The huge disruption before the Christmas in December 2010, 800,000 passengers stranded around the world, and it ended up with that many delays and cancellations. So just inappropriate report. And also, of course, punctuality includes so many hidden things. Capacities, unused capacities used actually used that unproductive capacities used to cope with the buffers buffers are becoming bigger, and they are still not as effective when the congestion in certain airports reaches certain. So this kind of reports is not, again, we can say that we don't know much about quality of our service and don't know much at all or anything at all about experience of disruption passenger, which is crucial to manage disruption. And then just to mention, the Southwest, they are not the best in producing, best in on punctuality leaks, but they are best in handling disruptive passengers, which is why they have the most loyal passengers in the industry. So getting back to the top of our organization, we have this board meeting, and then people and leaders and executives really trying hard to understand what caused the cost to rise, why the passengers are leaving them, their loyal passengers, and what is wrong. And they find so many excuses. It's a complexity, it's uncertainty, economic crisis, always something, but not things that needs to be addressed. And that's because the information system, they can do better, but informations that system they are using, it's not providing the sufficient knowledge about what is happening and what they really need to act upon.
What I like very much is bad luck. That's, I think, the best explanation in the book. We had bad luck.
That is in our head. You see, I put which one to pick. There are lots of excuses. You need to pick something because it's a blame culture presented there. You have to defend yourself and your departments or areas you are responsible for. So this is really not suitable for improvement. And this is Edward Deming's quote, which I really like and is appropriate for this the case of complexity. That 94% of problems in business are systems driven, and only 6% are people driven. Which means that we need to change the way we think about systems, to organize work around these barriers that we currently have. And I would like to have some thoughts, to share your thoughts, and we can do it later. I can continue if you are still not ready to ask a question, because we are now getting into the area where we'll look at the solutions to the problem. So everything that is happening now we'll leave behind for a while and see what we need to do to make it better, to make improvements. So
yeah, I think Jasenka, that's a good point. Of course, I like the statement that 94% of our problems are systems driven. On the other hand, I'm meeting many airlines who believe it's better to put more people into their decision-making center instead of changing their systems, which are the root cause for many errors. So what's your explanation? Is it, you said earlier, the mindset? Is it because these decision makers are not having the courage to change something? Is it they really believe in bad luck? Or what is the reason that they accept then these 94% errors coming from the systems?
So that's the question. They actually make decisions, and they make decisions based on their knowledge, on the scope of information they have, on their experiences, which could be sometimes narrow experiences, sometimes wider, but there is a fight of getting things or accepting someone's suggestions, someone's ideas. So there is lots of intuitive reasoning, and managing that all, actually probably comes from the position of power. Someone who is really more powerful will push decisions that they think are right, and the important things that when you are brave enough to push for expansion beyond, without knowing about the consequences, without knowing if airline is going to be capable of coping with that expansion. So they don't think about the operational side of it, which comes later. What they think about at that level is how they compare with competitors, because the measures only promote expansion, growth, and being a market leader, and that's what matters. Then you have to reduce costs to match competitors, and you reduce them under the level that can guarantee profitability. Then you go out for retail revenue and try to compensate losses by doing that. So non-core businesses become a part of decision making, and you outsource services, and then you lose the control of direct control of what and contact with passengers. Then there are so many things that are happening that are just not letting people at the top understand what are the consequences of their decision that they will see later. But the thing is that in those reports that we saw, you can't say what happened, who is responsible. We say it's complexity, and that's how it goes. And that's what causes these bankruptcies and difficulties, even airlines that look profitable now. And yes, leads to mergers who are actually the shelters for near bankrupt airlines. That's what they have become, and become more complex and bring in more complexity. So there are lots of things that these people at the top have to deal with. But what I think at this time, there is a time that changes in the way they do it in a very simple way, just bringing some, identifying from their point of view the pain points in operation. Is it the airport congestion? Is it air traffic congestion? Is it something missing within organization? Where are these blockages that they can intervene from their point of view? So that's what is missing, and that's what they wouldn't know without this. And when they make decisions to expand, they should monitor what is happening with this expansion. But there will be a short period where you can change strategies, that you can never again and never before it was possible to change a number of aircraft that you are operating, to cancel half of the operations that you planned and saw that it doesn't work and things like that. So this has to be prevented. As the time progresses, it is very hard time now because nobody knows what's happening. But as the time progresses, and we'll still face lots of uncertainty and complexity, we need to start doing the things and being aware about how much it costs us to do the things that they plan to do, and what are the origins of the problems in operations.
Sapna, you have a question on that.
Yes, Jessica. So I was wondering, there is so much opportunities for passengers to express their views and frustrations during social media these days. Plus, there are a lot of costs that are associated with that are paid to customers for delays and cancellations, especially on the EU side. I was also linking that to what Martin had presented in his session about how low the connection to the passenger is, and how low the use of reaccommodation communications to passengers are. Why do you think that customer experience, even if there are so many venues of capturing them and also for communications, are low currently with airlines?
So that communication, I think this is the area where technology can jump in and help. What passengers, this surveys, I would exclude surveys because they are just not something that should be ever used seriously, because they're produced, the interviews are done after the things were happened, when passengers are in different states of mind. But what is, and then there are companies that actually are hired to do that, and of course there is some business in those services. So it is that about technology that can, where passenger can express their dissatisfaction. Actually, I don't think that passengers need. It's not so essential. Some things are so obvious and could be prevented. If you have the information about how many flights were delayed for, I don't know, over 1 or 2 hours, but I'm not talking just about flights. I'm talking now how many passengers experienced that and what happened with passengers. So tracking that information, what happened with passengers. You don't need to ask someone, were you happy because you were 2 hours, experienced 2 hours delay and lost your connections. It's so obvious that, you know, it could be made simple, but personal inputs are also, which we already have. If we search for it, we'll find it, and we find, but they are again not, may not represent the general view about things that we need to use when we make a decision at higher levels. But what we can do, what Southwest did, we take care about these passengers, organize things in a way that actually ease up this experience, help passengers to shorten their time while experiencing disruptions. That's what I think is very important.
Thank you. Martin, what do you think about that? Is that also your analysis on why passenger control or passenger reach out communication systems are lower in airlines?
Yes, basically I agree, but to go to the step before, you know, when we were talking about how the people are doing things at the moment on the higher level, I agree. Everything is getting much more agile. People are now talking much more. But if I look at the airlines around, yes, it works because actually everyone in Europe is on the short-term work, and you have those super small groups where you have really representative of each department, and they, in a very agile way, decide something on the spot. But as was said, no one knows what's the impact of it. And in my opinion, this is just that we are fooling ourselves, you know, that yes, compared to before, suddenly the things are possible and we are able to do it. But practically, we are still doing the same things because they are still blind. They talk a little bit more, but especially on the data, as was mentioned, you know, what's the biggest problem of the data? That each department creates own data, own statistics, and there is nothing easier for me than to shut you down with my own data, you know, and just claim that your data are wrong because I have something different, and then I either push that my are right or that I at least prove that yours are wrong. And that's, I think, where we really need to, when we now turn something and change the mindset, yes, the things are changing, but we need not only to really confirm our feeling that we are great and we are agile and we are able to manage everything, but we need to take this opportunity to look at those things in overarching way and ideally really set up one data source where the entire company will say, I trust it. That's my biggest worry, that this will not happen, or this might not happen, because it's of course a significant investment, and that will just downstream lead to all the issues again and again. Even though now we might be saying, yeah, we are great and we are changing the things, but look at the network planning in 99.9% of the airlines. They don't know what they are doing in a way at the moment. They are just trying, trial and error. You publish the schedule on 2 weeks basis. In the meantime, they close and open the areas. This is popular, this is not. So you just adjust, but that's it. and you don't really have the real data for it. And of course, you don't have any historical data for it.
Oh, Martin, I would say that your statement is close to blasphemy, and many of the people who are watching it will potentially have a cognitive dissonance. But I like exactly what you say, because it's somehow confirming also my perspective on that. Yeah, let's create something out of it and new. So Daniel, Colombia, what's your question? What's on your mind?
I have too many things in my mind, but I want to ask Jacinka, what do you think will be the best way to change the decision-making mindset?
Sorry, to move this way. So can you just please repeat the question?
What do you think will be the best way to change the decision-making mindset?
Yes, we are going to talk about it just right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, there is the way. I would rather than talking about it. That's what I actually try to do for many years, to create something that tangible, to create the sort of, I don't like to use that word just solutions as general, but practical things, to do it in a practical way. How can we do that in a way that is not too complex, but the results are really very helpful. That's what we are going to talk about now.
Okay.
Okay. So we are going to talk about how to get things to work better. So we all want to do better. Every single person that works for airlines, I mean, anything wants to contribute to working better, but it's in this, as we talked about, very difficult. So it's all about change, because if you remember my first slides about where complexity started, it started when the complexity started to grow, and actually at that moment, that is the change that we have to look at, not anymore history or anything. That change, and understand why that change, we will call it disruption, dysfunction, variation, variability, whatever, in scientific terms, but this, I call it disruptions because they're closer to reality. Disruption, something that didn't work as we expected. So we plan the operation with this old mindset in our health organization, and we have reports, as we said, and that's what we produce. We produce look back to predict the future, and that's our plan. But when it faces reality, there is some difference. There's a change, and disruption happened. We have lots of external influences that were not predictable. Sometimes they are, if they are bigger influences, but that's what it is. And then we don't see passengers, as we said. Now we have to step out to change the perspective and look at airline from the perspective. We could see disruption, we could see passengers, and actually this all reflects in cost and revenue. In cost and revenue that we assume will be executed and performed. So, but it doesn't happen. So we need to find a way to change our perspective. So the first thing about this change and disruption is that disruptions are a systemic issue. They are not just operational issues, as we talk about. And then just put it as underlying causes that are not reported. Some of them are, if you look at direct causes, we can see aircraft manufacturers. We know how much it can affect regulatory issues, service suppliers, ATC, airports, airlines. We can in some way understand each of them separately, but how they interact, we can't understand. Then we have management, something that I said intangible, something that cannot be measured, but it's the influence of manager, top-down management, mergers and acquisitions, organizational issues, punctuality, targets, Cross-functional issues, cost cutting, a big problem, cost cutting. We mentioned it earlier. And then we have lots of functional optimization, local optimization, which work perfectly for departments, but maybe not for the system, maybe yes. And then we have influence of technology, how we, what kind of information we have, what about outsourcing, and how much do we get from these services, how we do the contracting and things like that, investment decision in various areas, sales and marketing, operations, scheduling, strategic decision. So you can think about much more of that. I just try to put it here to change the way we think about disruption. And the disruptions are actually the only way where we can see, if we look at them near real time and include data and insight, we can understand the origin and which are also interconnected, but at least we know which way to look at. So the possible outcomes which we used to have is willful ignorance of disruption, of the deeper causes of disruption, resulting in poor service, dissatisfied passengers, high cost and revenue loss. And then we can learn from disruptions. That is amazing way of learning about how the system works, from top to frontliners and across. So we can, if we do that, we can automatically create better service, satisfied passengers, lower cost, and increase in revenue. So if we know where the problems are, we reduce them, we adapt our strategy to our new knowledges and new experiences. And what I want to stress here, changing the mindset requires experience, because just talking about changing the mindset has never helped. There are brilliant articles, books, and talks about it. I like them, I listen to them. But then you come back to your organization and then you don't know what to do, actually. And that's the biggest problem with this kind of things. So just a little bit of disruption, so of the power of disruptions as connectors between strategy operation. What we can, it's about changes. So we are not talking about costs from as we looked at them, as the aggregate costs divided by kilometers, and KPIs, divided by kilometers or hours flown, things like that. These are the costs of change. How much this change, this misalignment between plan and actual cost us, and how it affected passengers, this under the service, and deeper causes. So we don't look actually wide. We don't need many, enormous number of disruptions to find out the reason. If we look deep, we just find that, and I've done it in practice, so I know how it works. It's powerful. So the causes and events, actually everything is associated with real life event. There are no averages, nothing is average there. This is something that happened, and for this to happen, we need the support of technology, which is on the other side of the spectrum. So in this case, we combine cost and service are system-wide issues and causes, and operational. We have events, people in operation deal with what happens on the day of operation mostly, and planning is a little bit different, but Operation Control Center is very well aware about difficulty in making decisions when disruptions happen. So now just a very quick image created to illustrate the flow of information from plan, which are in complicated domain. Planning is very complicated, but it can be done following the certain rules and instructions. That's what it is. So it has to be translated in the, I had said, simple. It's not simple. It's simple in the way that could be understood by people dealing with daily problems. So it's a schedule and, some other information needed in preparation. And then the output is a linear output, a number of hours flown delayed minutes of delay and things like that. And this is all that happens. And the planning, there are lots of assumptions based on these simple outputs combined with financial information, which is, we said, expenses, which don't actually match quite this operational input. So this is what we do now, and this is what the next one is about what we has to introduce. So this is a new framework for decision making. So again, we have here our plans and strategy and network, because we can't arise. They are good for this, so for organizing things and creating some structure of the system. So we don't say no to the way the operation, that things are planned, but they need to be supplemented with more information about what didn't work in the previous plans, and not waiting for the plans. Actually, these changes has to be done as when possible. Of course, you can't change number of aircraft in one season or 1 year, but can do many other things to reduce the problems faced by inappropriate strategic decision. So what is important, instead of waiting 1 year to see what worked, we need to access the information, operational information, near real time. Near real time means couple of days, not longer than 1 week. To assess, first to decide which disruptions will be included in this deeper analysis, and this includes cost, this includes spread of disruption, this includes the cost, authentic cost. This time we are talking about authentic cost. This is this could be done by creating an interface with an existing operation system, just expanding the scope, and that would be good for the beginning. So authentic cost and passenger, we need to include the passenger, what happened with passengers. Those two information are crucial, and they could be the criteria could be changed depending on what airlines want to look at. So we actually, what we do then, once we do that, we start communicating. Getting the insight means talking to people that were not responsible for that, people who were involved in these decisions. We said it's not about people. Very rarely it's about the system. So what we are looking here are interactions. We are not looking at who, we are looking at what caused the disruptions, which is different thing, and which let people be more open about the problem. So what we place when we arrange this, I call it collaborative hubs. These are the people, we invite people. First, after I identify who to invite, we need to know that, and we need boundary spanner, people who have multidisciplinary knowledge and also experience in different areas of airlines. So they are not very easy to find, but these sessions can actually speed up the understanding of the system operation, so that they can become these integrators and leaders in their own environment, inspiring change, understanding how much their decision affect others and how much what others do affect their decisions. That's the kind of collaboration we would like to create. So there is opportunities technique that brings this data with the narrative, the stories of people who were directly or indirectly involved. It could be could involve this. You start with operations control. They tell what happened. Then you go. If it is a service provider, there's a passenger problem with passenger handling. Look, they point you. People would normally point you to scheduling, and then from scheduling you go to sometimes maintenance, depending on the problem, really. That's why these gatherings are different. It's not just meetings where the same people gather every time. They are organized in a way that include people who are directly involved and can learn from the problem that was very costly, and how actually not look at what happens for them. It's important how to solve it, how to make it not repeated, make things not repeat again, make this problem not happen again. That's about this recognizing emerging patterns. What if we leave it like this, and what can we do to improve it? So these are this is about combination data and insight that are then again with this integrator or facilitator or boundary spanner interpreted, and so that everybody speaks the same language. They translated the things that have to go to the top level. They translate it into their language speak in a boardroom with a support of something that really happened. It's not abstract. When you combine, of course, you don't go every time something happened to, but then you look for patterns. The more you do of these deeper scans, opportunity scans, then the more you will understand how the system works, and there are the real pain points, and then you address them to top managers, and then they have to look if it is, for example, as I said, improving productivity to show that you are better than competitor, that causes then disruptions because the utilization workers is unmanageable, people in operation, and then it affects maintenance, it affects crewing, it affects everything, but they would not know that. So this time, if you come with real life problems and combine and integrate them, where we need support now to do more of them, of technology and visualization, just spotting the critical point. Is it at the airport? Is it certain problem with department, not with people, but the way the communication works? So you look at this kind of problems, but you include operations. There are people from strategic department. There are people from maintenance. There are people from, and they talk about this. Not disconnections, but about connectivity, interactions, and see how what I've done affected you. And that's the main point. That's something that is needed, and it changes the culture from avoided blames to actually cooperating, collaborating, and looking the attention as looking at improvements. As I call it, opportunity scans. That's what we can do. And so then it goes, as I said, translated in language at a higher level, what needs to improve. Is it, as I said, that expansion to congested airport? Okay, it brings us problems, it costs us much more, but on the other side, we want to keep it. It's a kind of trade-off. We'll take better care of about passengers there because they are affected more and that. And then peak hours control. So we do something to improve, not just on a paper, but in real life. And that's the whole point of having this loop that just goes on and on. And that's how now, today, when you don't have the history to support strategic decision, you can see if you get the feedback that is so crucial. And then the context could be different. It could be strategic. It could be airports. It could be, as I said, anything that interests people at the top, and they will understand what actually matters when they say, we want to do that and improve this, how it is. They will have much better idea how it will affect passengers in the end, because that's where revenue comes from, and attract investors, and everything that the revenue comes from outside, from the way we perform, and that's where what they need to know better. So the role of boundary spanners, I will go quickly through it. So what we do, we translate it. We don't change organization, don't big transformation. We can do it gradually, depending on what airlines want to achieve, but we don't, to start with, we don't just do any changes, but just put people together, because this is the people who can adjust and connect very quickly and fill up these gaps that are existing in information systems. So that's how improvements come naturally. We follow the flow of work. That's how things change. So this opportunity scans, just what are they about? Let's sum up this thing. Instead of managing departments, we manage real life problems. That's the difference here. And we learn about what airline is capable of doing. So, for example, we talked about it. Is there enough people? Is there enough information available to operations people to cope with this kind of disruptions that are sometimes unmanageable? And it's mostly about people and resources. Do we have enough of it? We are tuning our strategy and operation to best meet passengers' needs. So we'll have a better knowledge about how our strategies affected passengers, changes in strategies, because there will be lots of changes in strategies time to come. So we need something to cope with that. And then create a neutral territory. This is a neutral territory. It's not the formal department. It's just a space where people can gather and do things. And the most important in that are these integrators, people who understand and can facilitate this and comfortably talk languages of operations people and strategic people and people in between. So that's about it. So there is no blame. It's not about who but what created a problem, and we improve connectedness and collaboration. We reduce disruption and improve services to passengers. All somehow goes together. We don't separate these things and don't measure them separately, because if we do that, the cost will naturally go down. And if we improve quality and care of passengers, even if we have so many disruptions, it's that care that helps organize that, so that they feel they are cared about. That's what helps, and that will bring create us loyal passengers despite the all problems. That's how we beat the competitors, by creating better quality of our operations and output. And what happens after this meetups, collaborative meeting, actually it ends up with relational action maps. You can see this direct causes that we pick up from operational application. So there are the high level of this. You have there are about hundreds of them and even more. But we just look at flight operation, technical maintenance, things like that, handling, and so on. And then after this discussion, we associate it with we make a cross-functional action plan. We associate it with a department who need to look at these problems more. And then we actually prioritize their action level 1, immediate action or something, then 2, 3, or trade-off, just can't do it, but we'll trade off with something else. And then we have the relationship, differentiation between relationship. We have strong relation with this problem. This was actually the problem I experienced with while going through disruption caused by aircraft damage. And this is after my investigation work, this is what we came out with. So this relationship with the problems are crucial. So that means that this is a constant problem, continuous. And those aircraft damages at congested airport happened so many times during the year. And we had to find out why it's happening and include service provider as well. So this is about how it looks like. And of course, we have to measure progress. And we measure progress in whatever way is convenient to us. I put here to say if these problems were, because they will interfere with our other problems, but then we just add the relationship, increase or prioritize decisions or actions taken. It's all about actions. This is relation action map. You take action. If you don't take it, there will be another map coming up. So, and if they accumulate, the problems accumulate linked to some, in the end, that's the department who are having to do, to make some changes, then we know that there is a real problem that is of strategic nature. Obviously, I have to do something about it. So what it takes to connect and collaborate to disrupt disruptions, what we talked about is this sort of opportunity scan or reality check, you can call it like that. So it is something that stands and connects operations with strategy. Then we have human inputs, as we said, and we have to combine it with technology. And this is a fantastic time to introduce the solutions, technology solution based around the process that is clearly defined. We normally just design something and then airlines are using it or don't use it, all the functions and things like that. This time we have a process around which we can which can be just speed up and make the organization feel more connected and more attached to the common goal. When you sit there, you just share something in common and change something in common linked to real life. That's the good way of good experience, and it promotes changing. This is how you change culture. When these people come back, they think differently, they see things differently, and they find solutions better informed about what's really happening. And technology with this visualization could be amazing to get into that and help everyone see immediately what action, because it's about taking action. None of the reports that we now have are actionable, and all these analyses actually are good, but they are analysis based on assumptions, so lots of biasness in there. So this is about what it could be could be done, and the way it works. I would like again to quote Southwest Way, because that is something that has proven to work. And about strategy, I like this quote, again made by Herb Kelleher, former CEO and co-founder of Southwest Airlines. We have a strategic plan. It's called Doing Things, which we maybe have created. This is the idea that I have, which I use to practice. That's true, but it's a question if it is going to accept it more widely, and it would be fantastic to get feedbacks. That's what we need. Basic for this framework was simple: low cost, superior service, people first. That's what everybody has as a mantra. That's what people look at when they have problems. That's what are there, and they really care about their people. They never lay off. This is different situation. Anyone and involuntarily and things like that, and never reduced salaries, things like that. And I blog about it, but you can find it anyway. Anywhere on the web. Sequential thinking, which requires putting strategy first and execution second. operation is becoming more and more outdated. Even at the time when he said that, even irrelevant. Today's business relies on constant back and forth between the two, and that's one of the biggest secrets of Southwest success. Care about people, superior service people first, and then by doing that you actually you are connected strategy with operations. So that's about it. Let me just go back to now.
So Daniel, question to you. Did it now answer your question, how to implement a new mindset?
So it's very interesting what you have been showing us, but I still have the question in my mind. How do you have to do to change the mind of the decision making in order to think in a different way?
Okay. So this is what, shall we just go maybe, okay, move back. This is not the quickest way, but it's not a long how we change, let me put this right. So the changing the mindset comes from facing the problem, from experience. Oh, sorry. Comes from experience. And this people need to see things. That's what the point of seeing the real life problem, not numbers. Numbers are okay. I don't have anything about that, but numbers don't tell you what is happening. From a perspective of operations, it's very hard to say. You need to do things that instantly to find solution to problems that are coming out. You don't have time to think big at that time, but what you can learn will help you, and once you learn and what other people do and what is their contribution to disruptions and how this system works, you can maybe be encouraged to say, well, from my experience, this is the problems that keep repeating. You saw it, and then you need to tell other people that this is the real problem in the context of the real life problem that is looked at from different perspectives. And when and even CEO can attend those meetings and listen to what people think about disruption that created a million. That's what happens. $1 million or million, 2 or 3 million pounds over a few days, where they would just don't know. But and then if you connect this money things, this cost of disruptions, and they see that they were real, and why did this happen in that single case, and then in another case, and then in another, that's how they change the way they think. And there is no other way. You can look at numbers, operational figures, as we said, and the numbers of the cost that are aggregated cost and KPIs. You won't change your mindset. You just go for more and more and more and being bigger than competitors. And that's what creates problems, as we said. So this is how you change the mindset, by seeing the problem and understanding the problem in real life. That's the only way you can really change your mindset and use that change. You can change the mindset and do nothing about things. But in this time, you are forced to act, to take action. It's not just I'm changing my mindset. That's fine. And I think I should change it. And this is how you do it. I understand there are these problems. But you don't act. If you don't act, it's nothing. It's worth nothing. You have to act and see how your changes that you suggested are reflected are in real life. And that's what the changing mindset is. It's just worth if you take action, if you learn from real life and then take action and continuously get the feedback how good these decisions are sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes not longer than months, because the things are changing so fast, and even the strategies had to change fast, and that's the only way you can actually lead the airlines and plan the strategies. Now everything is going so close to what is happening in real life, and that's how you change and mindset and act and use that change mindset to act differently.
Sapna, you have a question.
Yes, please. Jacinka, that cause relationship metrics was very interesting, which you've created with your analysis on a disruption. Did you, in your analysis, find any difference there between managing the disruption now and managing its cascading or ripple effects in the future? What do you think about the difference in both?
That's a good question, because what we were doing here, let me just, go back to the last one. So what we are doing here, actually, they're called opportunities. So we look at problems that emerging problems. We are not just looking, but we sit here and see what happened. We don't look backwards. We find out why did it happen, but our role is by connecting in this way to look at things that are going to happen again and again and again. And so we are looking at the future, not future, as we did it before, but we're looking at some problems can, for example, if we expand like Delta was, and other airlines, I'm just using Delta, they're really good, this is a good airline, but because they published this, and I went through it and read a lot about what happened. So, but it's a good real life example. So they had to cut the services because the market was weak. That's the first thing. You look at the market. That's what makes the changes. But then you have to look at how much it costs you to operate at congested airport, and going back, and what are the risks of that. So you're looking forward when you do this. You look at when you compile more information. As more information from these deeper scans come in, you will see what has to be done to prevent problems that are we can see, because they can be all different kind of problems, as I mentioned earlier. But we can, in that case, we just focus on those things that are repetitive and that can impact the future. That's how the future can be measured. In complex system, you can't do it differently. Because of this interaction, constant changes, so that's everything is close to real life and what is going to happen next if we do this, based on learning from real life, not based from learning from management reports. And so this is how we learn. It may be hard to start with, but I think it will be very interesting. It inspire people to come up with ideas. These collaborative meetings are actually made to exchange things and discuss, like we are discussing, to ask questions, to hear other people's thoughts about what we will do. And that's how we create a future in a complex system. Unfortunately, maybe technology can speed up the process and help with knowing more about it. But for now, to start with, it will be it is necessary. It will come naturally if it's not, because there is no other way to do that. So.
Jasenka, I have to say you've blown me away. So I like very much what you were saying about the new mindset. I think that's exactly what we need. I also liked what you listed, all the opportunities which are there, because I think we are currently exactly in the crisis, and every crisis is also an opportunity. And I think each individual disruption is an opportunity, as you rightly said, to learn out of it and to take measures and to improve things. And I think all this requires what you said, the new mindset. And I also agree that exactly it's now the right moment and time to change things because we have a huge external factor disrupting the entire industry. And I think it's a time to rethink the earlier doings and take the opportunity to change it in order to prepare for the next crisis or the next disruption, which will certainly come. So we have today concluded our 8th session. Tomorrow is our 9th session, where Sapna is going to discuss also about digital airline operations. We have scheduled the next sessions also in August. We will have also 2 additional guest speakers on the 26th of August and the 2nd September. And I encourage everybody from you to also attend these sessions because we want to create a brain pool of positive thinkers in the industry who want to change the course of our disrupted industry and to take the opportunity to improve things. So thank you very much for this very great session. A lot of learnings, a lot of information to digest. And I wish that everybody stays healthy and safe and looking forward to having you soon again. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.